Hi, my name's Avram from Muse Culture. Survival games are an interesting breed of video game, usually lending themselves to a single player being dropped into an environment with nothing but what's around them to make shelter, food, and just survive. But when you actually get down to it, it's usually about people. Imagine if it was about badgers. Let's review Shelter. Shelter is the survival game developed by the studio Might and Delight for Windows and Mac. It is currently available on Steam and was released on the 28th of August 2013, after being accepted through the Steam Greenlight. Shelter is a survival game based around a mother badger and her 5 baby badgers trying to get from their initial burrow, which seems to be running out of food, to a new and better place, through a few levels of horrible terrain. You'll face up against things like hawk attacks, fires, floodwaters, and also starvation. If you don't continuously feed your 5 babies, they can starve to death, and making it through this game without losing a baby is so hard. The 5 children are likely to either run out of food by the end, or get picked off by predators, or floodwaters, or whatever it is, and this can all usually come down to your fault, or you not moving fast enough, or making decisions quick enough. It's kind of nice in that way where it is based around your decisions, and that's how they get picked off. Because in the end, those 5 baby badgers are like your lives, except instead of being numbers up the top of the screen, and you can pick up mushrooms or whatever it is to get more, you have just 5 babies, and they will die over time from just starvation or whatever it is. It's going to be hard, but it's also very rewarding, and it's more of an experience as you play through it than an actual set-out video game. It seems more like the kind of game that you play through once, and then you can just live with that experience, and that was what the game was to you. And then maybe you'll go back to it in a while, and that's how you play through it. And games like Bastion and Journey were like that for me, where I haven't gone back to them yet because it was so satisfying, the experience that I did have. I didn't want to corrupt that with a new playthrough just straight away. Which is actually a really exciting idea, because it means these games can keep giving for a long time, and I can come back to them in a while, and I'll know that I've had enough time to reflect and to come back to them with a new outlook. What Shelter does really right, though, is make you care about the baby badgers and the mother badger, because from the get-go you're controlling them, and the very first thing you have to do is nurse one of them back to health by bringing it a bit of food. That teaches you what the badgers will look like if they're getting hungry. It teaches you how to bring food to them. It teaches you so much about the game in that first 2 seconds, and it connects you to these characters even though they're not people and they're not technically relatable. So from the start, you'll be catching prey for your cubs and just trying to feed them and keep them going, and trying to split food evenly in between them and stuff to keep them all fed and things like that. And you'll get up to parts with some predators. I believe at the end of this level there's a bird, and it's this terrifying moment of panic where you have to move between cover and stuff, and it almost becomes this stealth segment of trying to avoid this bird from snatching you or your babies and basically feeding it to its babies, which is the circle of life. And that's what's cool about this game as well. It's just, you're interacting with this ecosystem in this world, and you are the badger. The graphics in this game are made up of this sort of patchwork paper cutout illustrations almost, that make it feel like a children's storybook in a way, and let you live out that story as in that sort of mindset where it's this, you're going through these different events and there's these different periods in the badger's journey to get to the other end. That being said, the graphics did seem to drag my performance down every now and then, and for whatever reason this was, there was a lot of particles going on at the times that it would drop, but it was still lovely, and it was alright. I could forgive it for what it was, so that wasn't so bad, but it still felt like janky and not quite as responsive as I would have wanted it to be, because sometimes you lose a baby badger just because of floodwater and things like timed puzzles where you have to move from place to place at the right points in time, and if the badger isn't following you or it isn't responding at the exact moment you want it to, it can really jeopardize your chances of a cub getting by or you getting by. The sound in this game is actually probably one of my favorite things. It's really beautiful, and this sort of ambient guitar notes, and it feels very synced up to the action, so I'm not quite sure, but I feel it's I feel that it definitely resembles the things that are happening on screen. So when you pick up food and stuff, you might get a note and things like that, or at least it's just so ambient and flowy that it just does that anyway, and it just syncs up to what I'm doing quite well. The sound is really important in some sections of the game as well, because you will rely on it for when danger's around and the right times to run and things like that, or at least it feels that way, and it's just beautiful going through this game and just having everything support everything else that's happening in this kind of full experience of a game. The gameplay of Shelter is really interesting because it's all about scavenging and avoiding predators and catching prey such as foxes and little mice and stuff to make sure that everyone's fed up so that they can keep up with you, so that they won't fall behind in sections where you need them to keep up with you. These are sections sort of where there's wildfires that are spreading underneath your feet at some points, and you have to just get them off that. There are circling birds that you have to get them away from, and just many other things that can basically kill your badgers. So if they're slowed down and they're hungry, you're gonna lose them. These moments are very tense and cool as well, because it's all on you and it's all on what you're doing and what time you choose to do it and how you follow things through. And if you're not on the ball and you can't catch a fox or something, then you might lose a baby to starvation, and that'll hit home. But then it becomes a bit easier and stuff like that, because you'll have less babies to feed and you'll make it through to the end probably. And it's one of these linear experiences that it's also very emotional or not tangible, so it's not a set story and they aren't telling you exactly what's happening, but it's up to you to watch it and make your own interpretations. A lot like Journey, and it's a lot like those kinds of games, so it's a bit more artistic, I guess, than something that's just straight out survival and actually has the goal of surviving for X amount of days or getting all the loot so that you can sustain yourself for a long period of time, which is more like the DayZ model or Don't Starve and games like that. In the end, this game was a lot of fun, and I played through it a couple of times just to make sure I got everything I needed for the recording, and just experiencing things again just to get a feel for them, because it was so lovely that I did want to go back to certain areas and just sort of relive those, like the nighttime sequence where you're sneaking through this sort of rock tunnels and caverns kind of with all this water running downhill, and you're sort of following this path along. And there's these, and if you're not fast enough, certain things can grab your babies in the night and they'll just start running at some point, and you have to just make sure you keep up with them and hope for the best. And it was just these beautiful tense moments that really made me connected to the game. My enjoyment was brought down a bit by the graphical glitches and things where it would just lag up when there was a lot of particles on the screen and stuff, and when you have 5 badgers it lags more than when you have 1 badger kind of thing. So all in all, I would have to give this game at least a 6.5 out of 10, just because the graphical glitches and things like that just sort of brought it down a bit, but it was still a really good experience. And if you like things like Journey, I would definitely recommend you check this out, even though it's not exactly the same game or anything, and it's not that sort of fluid flying gameplay, but it's that same sort of experience and feeling almost. If you are more of a more mainstream survival fan, or just don't think this is for you, then definitely you might want to give it a miss. Thanks so much. My name's been Avram Parker for Muse Culture. Go check us out on the website, museculture.net. Go check us out on all the socials. Come and subscribe to us on YouTube for sure. There's heaps of cool videos, just check them out. There's other reviews I've done, there's just a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, I'll look forward to seeing you next week. See you soon.